The third trip of 2022 was to Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. Part one now is from our home to Musoma, Tanzania, Tuesday, July 12th through Sunday, July 17th. The festivities began on Sunday, July 10th, when Mary Lou and I celebrated our 40th anniversary. Took some pictures outside, and here is a veritable bevy of beauties. Gorgeous, aren't they? Then the guys took a picture together. That's my two sons, Jonathan and Stephen, and Caden, our grandson. And then here we have the whole family, all four of our kids. Well, the trip started from Los Angeles. I flew to Seattle, then to Amsterdam, and then Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The journey began in the middle of the night on July 12th as I boarded the flyaway bus in Van Nuys to take me to LAX, and then was on the plane. Flew to Seattle, and then coming out of Seattle, got a fabulous view of Mount Rainier. Isn't that gorgeous? Meanwhile, publicity was going out at the training sites, like this publicity in Eldoret Canyon. After Amsterdam, I flew over Europe, got a neat picture of the Alps, and then landed in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Now that night I had dinner with Tukiko's oldest son, one of his sons, Sila. Tukiko Omoso is the pastor in Bunda, Tanzania, who first invited me to Africa. And I've gotten to know him and his family well. His son Sila and I have had some wonderful discussions about his vision for agriculture in the area. Well, I flew to Mwanza and was going to head up to Bunda, but first had dinner with Henry Vufuta and his son. Henry, I had never met face to face. He had taken 5 of my teleconference trainings during the pandemic, and I finally got to meet him face to face. Well, I started up the highway to Bunda, and the highway goes right by the Serengeti National Park. And sometimes you can see animals, and with my new iPhone 12 I was able to zoom in, and you get a good picture here of the zebras and the wildebeest. Now, I was able to hitch a ride with a group from Kona, Hawaii, a YWAM group that was doing a mission work in Tanzania, sponsored by my friend Jacob Martin Makorere, who lives in Bunda also. And the reason we got out is because we had to take pictures of the elephant that was there. Actually, there were 3 elephants. These are wild elephants. They were right off of the highway, and here we got a little picture of them.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a real another one behind. We are just off the highway.
Well, I had never seen wild elephants before. That was pretty fun for me. In Bunda, I was with Tukiko and his wife Stella. They're on the right. And the gentleman in yellow there is a Zambian pastor. And he brought the message during the Sunday school hour, and I brought the message during the service at Tukiko's church in Bunda. And here we get an example of what their praise music is like. And yes, it was spectacularly loud, and it was really exciting, though. Lots of fun, even when the guitar was a little out of tune. Well, I got to preach, and Tukiko translated for me in his church. And then after church, we went out to see a church plant that Stella and her group had done. 5 years ago, they took a Timothy Leadership Training Course #1, Caring for God's People. Stella formed a group of 5 women who took on the responsibility of ministering to pastors' wives throughout the area. And this group last year went into this one village and began to talk with everybody, and they started a church. And so here's a picture of the first service, or maybe the second service that they had. You can see they put up some coverings over their little structure there. While I was there, some men were working, digging up these boulders that they're going to break up and use as the foundation for their church. They're going to build this brand new church right in the village. Well, from Bunda, I went up to Musoma on Sunday night. I got to have dinner with some of the leaders of Timothy Leadership Training there, Jacob Mina and Eva James and Matthias. We had a great time. And then I drove the next morning to Tarime, and we began part 2 of the trip, the training in Tarime. Tarime is close to the border of Kenya, and I had never been there before. We were starting a brand new training. So the room was all set up, and we were all set to go. There's the view from the back of the room and the view from the front of the room. And people started coming in. This was hosted by the Pentecostal Assemblies of God of Tanzania, and we got underway and began to have a great time. Our host was Peter Andrew, and he did a great job. I told him to smile, and I kind of tickled him, and he smiled. We broke into small groups, and here's kind of an idea of what it looks like. And I'll tell you, it is a delight to teach people who really are anxious to learn. You know, in some situations you teach a class and it's like people are there because they have to be, and it's just not very enjoyable. But boy, I'll tell you, these people all really want to be there, and they're just so eager to soak up the scriptures that we're looking at. And here we're discussing topics on caring for God's people, which is the first course of Timothy Leadership Training. They began to write their action plans at the end of the course, and again, they all took it very seriously, and they were answering basically 2 questions. What does God want me to do? And then, how does God want me to do it? You can see that they all dress up to come to these trainings. They're wearing their nice stuff, and I love how the women have such beautiful and colorful dresses. Well, we took our group photo at the end, and I told them to get a wild shot. So this was our wild shot. And I think it does reflect that everybody had a great time. Now from there, I crossed the border into Kenya and went to the city of Oyugis. And actually, first, we had a little trouble going across the border. I had filled out a passport application ahead of time, but I evidently filled out one thing wrong, and so when I got there they said, no, you have to do it again, and it took us 2 hours to get through the border there. It was crazy. Spent the night in Homa Bay because with elections upcoming in Kenya, they felt that it would not be wise for us to stay out past 9 o'clock on the highway, and therefore we diverted to Homa Bay. We left the next morning and we drove to the hotel in Oyugis, and then we drove to the training site. And when I say it was rural, I mean it was really out there, folks. And then when we got to the site, here is kind of what it looks like. This is the church where we did the training. And then they've started a building project additionally. It looks like they haven't gotten too far yet, but this is the place. Beautiful, beautiful area though, I'll tell you. Here's the inside, and you can see some of their building materials are still stored inside, and they had to add electricity because it was so dark. I said, nobody's going to be able to see their manuals, and so they put in electricity and a light bulb just for us. Isn't that crazy? Well, at 9 o'clock we were ready to start, and in Africa, if you say you're going to start at 9 o'clock in the morning, you might get started by 10:30. And so the room was empty, but gradually began to fill up. And so we had the training go on for 3 days. My translator was Pastor George Okello, great man, and he really kept me on track because this training was not well prepared, and it was very frustrating, and boy, I was ready to quit a couple of times, and George kept me right on pace. The hotel room in Oyugis had kind of a nice touch with this blue highlight in the room. And then I thought, well, what would it look like if you turned off the white lights and just had the blue? Well, it was a little weird, but actually I got used to it and it was kind of restful. But I'd never been in a hotel room that had that before. This is what it's like to drive around in the city of Oyugis, Kenya. This is the main highway through town, and it is busy like this all the time. And it just goes on and on and on. All these people doing their business, and just motorcycles going all over the place, and people crossing in front of the road, cars in and out. It's different, folks. It's really different. Well, of course, right as we start writing our action plans, it begins to rain. And so everybody in here now is going to get wet when they finish writing their action plans. Lord, thank you for the good time. Amen. And then the power went out. And so it was really dark. Yes, it is completely dark in here, and it is not nearly as bright in here as this video. It is nearly pitch black. It's raining, and welcome to Kenya. Well, we did finish the training. It went well, and then on Sunday I drove out to preach at the local church. Now, once again, the roads are unfinished, and but the countryside is absolutely gorgeous, so green and lush and beautiful. We went to the church, which meets at the high school. There's a building inside, and this is the Africa Inland Church. And at 9 o'clock, yeah, it was time to start, and we were missing a few people. Here's the front of the church, and I got to preach there later on. But first, they invited me to lead Sunday school, and I got to spend time with these kids. I had a translator, and they were asking questions, and I got to do a little bit of Bible story with them. We had a great time. And then that afternoon, we drove up to Eldoret, Kenya, and I was scheduled to do 2 trainings in Eldoret because they needed to do Timothy Leadership Training Course 2 and also Understanding the Bible Course 2. So we drove from Oyugis up to Eldoret, and it's a beautiful drive. Once again, very open and lush and green, and the road was really good. It's a good highway that goes up through there. And when I got to the hotel in Eldoret, I was really surprised. Well, that was kind of fun. And then we started our class in Eldoret. It's a little smaller group, but this is a really, really sharp group of young professionals. Many pastors in this group, and they all speak English very well, so we're able to go through material much more quickly. Here are a couple of the small groups as they were working through the material. And once again, you can see that they are intent on working through the material. Here is the name of the church, City Victory Fellowship in Eldoret, Kenya. And as we go around the room here, you can see both of those men are pastors. Pastor Gerald on the left, in fact, is the pastor of this church. And then my host, John Uma, has his back to us here. But those are also pastors. So a really intense group. Here are some, these are 3 sisters, and they all are from the city of Oyugis. And so we kind of joked about the problems that I had down there and how different it was up here. Yeah, now we're preparing for our group photo. Looks like I'm about to direct the choir, but I'm not really. We're just getting ready for our group photo. And this is the Eldoret group. Again, a really sharp group of young, very spiritually minded folks in Western Kenya. Well, driving through Eldoret was similar in terms of the amount of people on the road and just how crowded it is, and everybody just kind of seamlessly allows the pedestrians and the motorcycles and the cars and, you know, the businesses. People are selling things right on the side of the road, right through the middle of town. It's a different lifestyle. Meanwhile, we were learning the Old Testament walkthrough, and Jacqueline here is a young professional who was helping lead everybody. Some of you have been through this. And many of you recognize that. Well, I recorded the whole thing, and they got through it very, very well. Here is Pastor John Uma and his family. They came to the hotel and had dinner with me. And then I preached on Sunday morning again outside of Eldoret on the way to Uganda. And here now we're going to stop in Tororo, Uganda, and then drive north up to Soroti. In Tororo, I got to meet my country director, George, Opio George, his brother here, Zephaniah. I got to meet and spend time with in Tororo. We had some other guests at the hotel staying with us. They were a little more aggressive. And for some reason, I got the honeymoon suite. I don't know why, but never had a round bed before. So anyway, we drove up from Tororo through Mbale to Soroti, and by the way, that was the morning of the flood, and a whole bunch of people were killed. I think 26 people were killed in Mbale because of the floods that morning. We just missed it. We drove through. There were hundreds of people along both sides of the river, and they were bringing bodies up out of the river. We were in Kamuda, which is a rural area outside of Soroti, for our TLT4 training on biblical preaching. My translator was Max Paul. He spent quite a bit of time in the U.S. and he was quite an athlete. He was a goalie, and he runs a soccer program in Soroti. Real sharp guy. Well, once again, we had small groups, and again, you can see that these people are intent about what they're learning, and a great group of people. Got to give Bishop Opio George, my country director for Uganda, his basic trainer certificate. He's already started like 10 different trainings in Uganda, and he's a lovely man, really a wonderful man of God. Also, Isaac received his advanced trainer certificate. Isaac is a high school biology and chemistry teacher. He has been my translator a number of times here in Kamuda. And here we're seeing them writing their action plans at the end of the course. And then here is our group photo. And you can see Max Paul really is a lot taller than everybody else. Here's the view out of my hotel window in Soroti, Uganda. And then we ran a second training in Soroti, this one with Baptists at the Soroti Baptist Church. They have a medical center that's attached to their church. And here is their vision statement for that medical center. My driver Bernard is in the blue shirt, and he was a part of our training. Esther and Irene are there, and then our group photo here. Oops, the guy on the right's not quite in position, so we took another one, and we decided to do a serious one, so everybody got real serious. I said, smile like Africans, because they don't smile when they take pictures. It's the funniest thing. But I asked them to do a wild one, and they did, and everybody smiled. So, all right, we're done. Here is the leadership group in Soroti. Again, a very, very sharp group. Pastor Abraham on the left, Pastor David on the right with the tie, and their wives, and also some other church leaders there. Well, the last part then was to fly to Entebbe, which is the international airport outside of the capital of Kampala, and then from there home. So I flew with Mission Aviation Fellowship. On our way to the airport, we saw a family on their motorcycle. Isn't that unbelievable? Can you imagine doing that in the U.S.? Here's the airport at Soroti. It's just a tiny little building. There are no commercial flights out of there, so you have to fly a private group like Mission Aviation Fellowship. So it's a small plane, but it gets you to where you need to go. We were at the Airport View Hotel in Entebbe, and it's called the Airport View Hotel because you can see the airport from here. Well, maybe I need to zoom in a bit. See the airplane? It really is an airport there. And here's the dining room at the hotel. Beautiful place. I've stayed here many times. It's a very quiet hotel and just nice to relax at the end of a trip. Well, here is the lounge at the Entebbe airport, and then we flew to Amsterdam. Here is the lounge at Amsterdam. It is a beautiful lounge, the KLM lounge in Amsterdam. And then the airport was pretty busy with people. Here's the Amsterdam Bread Company. And the flight back to Seattle, 4,867 miles. It's a long flight. In Seattle, we went through customs, welcome to the United States, and then it was kind of funny to see the Africa Lounge in the Seattle airport. From Seattle, flew back to Los Angeles, so the whole trip took about 30 hours. Well, that's trip number 3, and now trip number 4 will be to Campina Grande, Brazil. I leave September 27th. I'd like to thank you for watching, and thank you for praying. Thank you for investing with us. We literally cannot do this without you. You are the people who empower this ministry, and I praise God for it. I'm already planning the trips for 2023 and have some wonderful new opportunities, as well as traveling back to many places where I've been before. Well, that's all for now. Thanks again for watching and for keeping track with us. God bless you.